News review segment, where we get to have a conversation around some of the topical issues dominating the media space. This morning, I'm joined in studio by a member of the NPP's communications team in the person of Eric Chum. Good morning.
Good morning, bro.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Same here.
Then we have the Honourable Member of Parliament for Sisala West, the Honourable Mohammed Adams Sukbaru. Honourable, good morning.
Good morning, already. How are you?
Like the people like you, when you come, they send in text a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I can't say no to that because this is my second time in Parliament, and let me say,
You must be doing something good there.
yes, I'm the second person who is able to do 2 terms. Since the creation of the constituency, the PNC candidate won twice, from 2004 to 2009. Then NDC won 2012, 2016 NPP came for the first time, and I took it from NPP in 2020, and I'm still here. So I believe, of course, from 2004 it has always been NDC presidential.
Right.
It has always been NDC.
Congratulations on that.
We are doing our best trying to make sure that the people are well represented and
Fair.
their issues are brought up for national attention so that duty bearers can attend to them. So we do our
Right.
best.
Very well. Let's get into our business of the day. We start off with issues of alleged corruption. The former boss of GIHOC Distilleries, Maxwell Kofi Juma, was picked up by national security operatives in the Ashanti region, later transferred to the Greater Accra region, the CID headquarters. We understand he's been granted 500,000 Ghana cedis bail. I'll just read a few paragraphs of a story on ChannelOneNews.com, which says former GIHOC MD Kofi Juma granted 500,000 cedis bail. Maxwell Kofi Juma, the former managing director of GIHOC Distilleries Limited, has been granted bail set at 500,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties. This follows his recent arrest over allegations involving the theft of company-owned vehicles. The bail was approved on Monday, June 30, after Mr. Juma was transferred to the Criminal Investigations Department, CID headquarters, where he was detained. The Ghana Police Service confirmed the development during a press briefing led by Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCOP Lydia Yako Donko. She explained that the arrest stemmed from a former complaint filed by GIHOC Distilleries. All right, so that's the story. We know he's been granted bail, but his lawyers have been speaking to us. They have told us that he legally owns 2 of the vehicles in question. This is according to his lawyers. One of them spoke on the Channel One newsroom last night. And then also, they are unhappy with the arrest. They say Kofi Juma could have simply been invited. Eric.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here. And this morning, too, I'm here with my brother. You know, when you were giving him all the plaudits and the commendations that were coming from the viewers, you forgot to talk about his appointment. You know, all these rabble-rousers have been given appointments, and he's still here. He's a fine gentleman.
I think he deserves more.
You know, yes, of course. You know, I'm speaking for him. You know, he's my friend. He's my very good friend. You know, I would have wished that he would have been recognized.
Very well.
I have been recognized. I appreciate it, but I have been recognized. The recognition is that the Ghanaian people have recognized my party, and if I recognize the fact that the NDC is the party that
you
can
not
be
make me
represented.
say something for you.
So I'm part of the NDC, whether appointment or no appointment.
That's
okay,
I'm
he's
part of
actually
government.
speaking for you.
You not make me say something for you.
I know he likes me, but not in this context. My party is in power, and I have, in fact, every member of NDC is part of the appointment.
Don't
What
worry,
kind of
don't
appointment do
worry.
we have?
This evening we'll meet at the base.
No, we won't meet at the base.
All right, let's deal with Kofi Juma.
Well, I
His
mean,
arrest
to be honest with you, I'm not too sure if we are progressing as a democracy or not. I mean, in some of these things, whilst maybe in the interim, it sort of scores some kind of political points, and it feeds into a certain populism and all of that. I don't see how it helps in the long run in terms of how we govern this country. You have an individual like Kofi Juma, who you can actually pick up a phone and call and say that appear at the nearest police station or whatever, or come to this particular security agency because a certain complaint has been made about you, and he will turn up. You know, so this whole pension, I mean, it's almost like like it's become the MO of this current administration of sending people with guns and pickups and all sorts of things, creating a certain sense that these individuals are even going to resist arrest, you know, and I mean, the razzmatazz and the sort of whatever that comes with it. It's something that I'm extremely uncomfortable with. You know, you see, we are all one people, right? And sometimes some of these relationships, and he's my friend, he's NDC, I'm MPP. You know, it can happen that our kids go to the same school, we go to the same church, we go to the same mosque, we went to the same schools together, you know.
Like
so, yeah, exactly, like our base. You know, and if over there, we don't even discuss politics, right? And so for me, I think that we have to be very careful if we really want to heal this country. And it even dovetails into something that happened yesterday. Yesterday was Martyrs' Day, you remember, right? And a lot of things have happened in this country where maybe some of the very young people, the Gen Zs do not even have a certain appreciation of. We've come from a very long way. And it doesn't mean that if somebody has done something that is criminal or you deem it to be necessary for that person to be investigated, or somebody has been given a public office and they're supposed to account for their stewardship. They're not supposed to do that. But there's a certain finesse that comes with it, you know, but we are behaving as if that we are in some, it's almost as if there's like some kind of a jungle and let's try and get, and for me, I think that sometimes it's a bit unnecessary. To be honest with you, I have absolutely no qualms with people being given positions of authority and being asked to account for it. But you see, it's also the inconsistency, right? And sometimes the media, you're a bit too lax when it comes to these things. Maybe when new governments come into office, maybe there's a certain perception that there's some goodwill or people want to be in their good books and all that. Because, you see, you have to question the consistency. You have persons who have been taken through a judicial process, and a government comes into power, decides to go to court and even cause a null prosecutor to be instituted so that these people, regardless of what the allegations are, would be acquitted of whatever it is. And that same administration is using the same justification to go after people who are not part of their political leanings, claiming that some corrupt actions. So in one breath, those actions by an administration that was duly, voted for, and have gone through a judicial process were persecutions. However, these ones are prosecutions. Now, when you do that, over a long term, the people lose some faith even in the political leadership that we have in this country, the political systems, that it becomes almost as if that is an MPP, NDC way of governing this country. But we have to govern. Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is we have to govern this country in a way that is anchored in some certain values and principles, so that it is not on the whims and caprices of certain individuals, or if you are in government, yes, we want to make sure that the Constitution is followed to the letter. But if you are out of government, we will criticize. And I can take certain examples even from our side as a political party where we've done that over the period. But is that what we want to do, I mean, in 2025? You know, and so for me, yes, Kofi Juma, I don't know the details of the matter. He claims to have been in possession of these vehicles legally, and he would have his day in court and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that for any well-meaning, well-thinking Ghanaian. But a 70-something-year-old man. So you go into his house with guns, and you understand what I'm saying? Invite him. Now, because he can activate a legal process where he's invited, he doesn't turn up, you go to court to get a warrant and all of those things. So what is this about? I mean, I've never seen that before. Honestly speaking, I mean, the justification that in times past it had happened, and so we are basically continuing what at a certain point in time
events.
we actually also spoke against, right? So at what point would we actually say that, listen, all of these things are important. There's definitely a need for accountability. However, there has to be a certain sense of finesse. I mean, if you go into somebody's home and the little children there or whatever, these are things that can scar them forever. And this is an individual that is not hard to find.
Then you was picked up without footwear.
Exactly. What is the point? I mean, that's what I'm saying. That apart from there being some kind of trying to retribution or trying to exert some kind of even vendetta, to be honest with you, I don't see how, unless of course it's somebody who, one, is a flight risk, is dangerous and is known to be carrying weapons and arms and all of those things. But apart from that, all these public officials and people, and even ordinary Ghanaians should not be subjected to some of these things. Yeah, as far as that's my view on this particular matter. So, in terms of the substance of the issue, I have absolutely no information on that. But if he claims that he has legal possession of these things, it will go through a court process, and then the court will decide. But even in some of these things, I mean, that's why there's even the issue of discretion. So if you feel that the individual, GIHOC has made an allegation that these vehicles have been stolen, some investigations should be done. I mean, is it the case that at every point in time an investigation is done, the person has to be arrested before the investigation? I mean, it's a bit, you know what I'm saying?
Investigation can be carried out, and then when there's substantive evidence,
but you are saying that I'm arresting you before for questioning before I my investigation.
Trend that we can establish regarding these arrests. People must stay and account for their stewardship. But how are we going about it? Now is the turn of Maxwell Kofi Juma, former GIHOC MD. Your thoughts?
Listening to my good friend Eric, with the issue of Kofi Juma, arrest, and many other, you know, as a country, we for some time now we said we are going to fight corruption because that has been one of the greatest enemy to the progress of this country. And so when you are fighting corruption, what do you seek to achieve? There are two things that you seek to achieve. First, one is to prevent people from, you know, taking public office into their own hands, trying to use it to, you know, maximize profit for their personal gains. That is one thing. And also to ensure that there's trust and our country in terms of handling our own affairs. And so for me, I can also speak to the fact that whether or not he was first invited, but be it as it's me, when you say you want to fight corruption, I don't think that is for political gains, but some of these things, somebody sitting in the office or the current chief executive officer or the MD of GIHOC, if he sees how Kofi Juma was arrested at Kumasi and even transferred from Kumasi to CID headquarters, that alone for interrogation, that alone to me would serve as deterrent to him, so for him to sit up. You know, when persons who allegedly cause crimes, and we say
the president's caution to directors of SOEs is not a deterrent enough?
It is enough. The former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, did the same. But today, what are we seeing? He did say, you remember his first public address at the Independence Square, I mean the sworn in. You remember the statement he made that if you are coming to his government just because you want to make money, then you should be smiling at the wrong side of your mouth. But if you want to make money, you should go to the private sector. But in the end, look at what we're seeing. What he's been accused of is about some state vehicles being in his possession and some, all kinds of things. So for me, it is time for us to treat. We cannot say that an ordinary theft issue of, let's say, somebody who has stolen a goat, that one, they should go in a Rambo style to go and arrest that particular alleged suspect. And when somebody who is allegedly probably stolen an amount belonging to the state that can really actually buy millions of goats, we say that such people should be invited to come by themselves. Of course, that is the process. That is one of the means, that they could explore. But they decide to go in that way to arrest. That is what I'm saying, that in doing all of these things, that alone is part of sending a certain signal to those, even apart from the caution the president has given them, those serving in government, that if you also make a mistake and you do same, and a day for accountability comes, like today, this is how you are going to be dealt with. And that will be ringing a certain bell in their minds that when I do something like this, if somebody can be arrested, right, and transferred from Kumasi to the CID headquarters because he's keeping state, vehicles in his possession, and he's been accused for some corrupt activities when he was in office. You should know that you, the person currently occupying same position, yours probably will be worse than that. And for me, that will help us in fighting the corruption. So I don't see it to be political vendetta. I don't see it to be like political persecution. I don't see it to be as government going after his opponent. What I would suggest and what I would want, and I believe in His Excellency the President, because he's done it before, that even if any of his appointees engage in any act that is suspected to be corruption, certainly the same way that the investigations are currently being conducted, same will be applied to an NDC appointee. He's not doing it because, those that have been arrested are NDC or they are MPP. He's doing it because they are suspect, and such people are enemies to our progress. And so for me, I think that is the right way if we want to fight corruption. If you sit and you invite them to come at their own time, to come with their lawyers, it is like we are trying to fight and dignify the act of corruption. And that is why people will have challenges when they see police going after somebody who has allegedly stolen 500 Ghana cedi from someone or 2,000 Ghana cedis. We see people being sentenced to 10 years imprisonment because the person has stolen a goat or a sheep. We've seen people being sentenced to 2 years imprisonment because the person has stolen from his employer maybe 1,000 cedis or 10,000 Ghana cedis. But we are talking about millions of cedis, which can actually construct the road from Wa to Tumu. I was just watching a video. That is my constituency. The major road that links Upper West to Upper East. I don't know if you ever use the road. You can see how bad it is. And these days, it is raining. It is very, very difficult. A road that you're supposed to use from Wa to Tumu, you're supposed to drive like an hour and 30 minutes. Because of the bad nature of the road, you're going to spend almost 3 hours on the road. And for the time in Memo, that road has never seen any improvement. It has, ever since I was born, it has always been like that. In fact, we have never seen a tar road, And if we have people who are occupying public office who are supposed to manage our resources in a manner that we can get value for money, and they are allegedly engaged in certain acts that can, affect our foreign movement, I think that we shouldn't handle them with any dignity.
You see, that's the challenge that creates the perception, because most of these high-profile cases, we seldom see the end of it, convictions or even some retrieval of the monies involved. But per the example you gave, the goat thief will get his 10 years in jail. And so it leaves room for the assumption that these are political persecutions.
That is what I'm saying. So that's why I think that this is the best way to go after them. If we want to dignify the act by saying that we are a standing invitation to them to appear before CID or whichever state institution for investigation, it comes with a certain respect. But once you go after them this way, I tell you, other persons sitting occupying same position, they will be, if they have any intention of doing same or do something, they will be, hey, if Mr. Kofi Juma, who is over 70 years, is being treated this way, me that I'm 40-something years or 50 years, and he's been, they are going after him because of maybe an issue about maybe just 500 million or $500,000 case, and somebody who has an intention of stealing from the state about maybe 10 million, he will sit up because that alone, the court aspect hasn't come, the arrest aspect, the trauma, the psychological effect, you know, the public perception alone would deter the person from carrying on such
quickly.
The logic and the analogy is just lost on me, to be honest with you. I mean, assuming that you go through that process and the person is found innocent. What have we done?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we say that we want to act in a civilized manner in how we treat ourselves. I'm not saying, I didn't say that Kofi Juma should not be held accountable for his stewardship.
Or treated any special.
And even the law says that even somebody that you call a common criminal who has even stolen a goat has rights.
Yes,
and that
is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, we've had incidents in this country where we have gone after the police in terms of using high-handedness when it comes to some of these things, even ordinary people. You understand? And so I don't have a challenge with that. But you see, this analogy of, okay, that will become a deterrent. And it's almost if it's, when you're using words like allegedly. Now, if you're using words like allegedly and you're going to arrest the guy and you're going there with all guns blazing and people wearing balaclavas and all of that. I mean, how does that
serve as a deterrent?
Serve as a deterrent. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that, yes, go ahead and prosecute if you want, do also. But even the inconsistencies, right? And the hypocrisy of it. So in one breath, you're claiming that Kofi Juma has taken some vehicles. And so you're sending security personnel to his house to arrest him and take him through a process and show him where power lies and bring him from Kumasi to Accra. Yet you come into office and every single criminal or a corruption case, prosecution that was going through the judicial process, you have truncated the process by nolli prosequi. I mean, come on.
In May, I think May 16 or so, you had a publication on state security going after Maxwell.
The Herald had.
Well, the Herald. I mean, the Herald newspaper had this publication. State security chases Kofi Juma over GIHOC's financial rots.
True.
So perhaps you might have some information to share with us. Please go ahead.
Okay, so good morning to our viewers. Sorry, I got stuck in some domestic matters. So I think that Kofi Juma has always behaved as though he's above the law. And Eric knows that for a fact. We've all...
Eric, do you?
Oh, he knows it.
Why is this serious?
Yes, he knows it. Eric knows it. Don't you know it? Superu. I mean, everybody, our viewers will attest to that Kofi Juma has always behaved that he's above the law. Even his talk, his utterances, his political discourse, everything.
But like, you shouldn't allow
I'm coming.
You shouldn't allow that to...
No, listen, I mean, wait, I'm building a point. Don't disturb my thinking, Eric, my brother. See, he has always behaved as though he's above the law. You get it? As you rightly mentioned, when?
May 16.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they started, I mean, my information is that they started looking for him long ago. They will call him, listen, this is in your custody. Others have taken over, you know, the administration of that, the state institution. And that all the properties that are at your, you know, whatever, can you return them? The man will snub everybody. He will snub everybody. They started looking for him not today. Called him. I mean, I think people were trying to be, the state, you know, was trying to be gentle with him. I don't think these guys are as, what you call it, draconian, I mean, for want of a better word, as sometimes we try to paint them. Some of them are professionals. But I see politicians have always behaved as though they are above the law. So they will call you in a gentle manner, oh, listen, the state is investigating this thing. And they do so because they know that, listen, parties will go, parties will come.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are state officials or security officials that are going to stay in office for quite some time. Their appointments or promotions and so on are, are tied to,
political tenure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they will invite you in a gentle manner, so and so. But very often, you have politicians who feel that they are above the law and they don't comply with some of these invitations. It was a similar thing that was witnessed in the case of Wontumi. It was a similar thing that was... And then when these state officials move in, and with all the vehicles and then the guns and so on, because they don't know why you are behaving like that, should just an individual come so that you beat him up, or your boys will beat them up? So they storm the place. I mean, in any case, if they tell you that they are coming, you could leave the place. So then they storm there with all whatever it is that you he was mentioning, and then the politicians again, twist that thing to me that why are you coming with gun blazing? Why are you using 20-something vehicles? Why are you using motorbikes? Why are you using this, bicycles, all that and so on, to come and arrest me? Am I that dangerous? If you weren't dangerous, why did you refuse to show up?
When you were invited.
When you were invited. Napo just told us that, listen, he's been going to this, he's been honoring some of these invitations.
Nobody has.
And nobody has had issues. And it's not just Napo, so many of them. Listen, I keep saying that you can't call yourself a new patriotic party, and when you're supposed to come and render your civic duty, your patriotic duties, you say that, no, don't touch me. You are doing political witch hunting. When you label yourself, you need to live by that label. Obviously, I mean, these are guys who don't want to live by the label. Do you understand?
Yeah.
As far back as May. So even if he says that he had changed his phone numbers, okay, and so people couldn't contact him. How about some of these publications that, very credible institutions like yours and many others, reported on? And other newspapers reported on this particular invitation. So the law-abiding, Kofi Juma, didn't hear of this to say that, oh, I hear you guys are looking for me. What is the issue? And at the time, I think he released a particular vehicle. Why? What is the issue? Do you understand? Yeah. So then you are, honoring your civic duties. Then the appointer, who was, who is your in-law? That is the president, the ex-president, Nana Akufo-Addo. Okay? Then you are honoring his name. You get what I'm saying? But no, you didn't. To a point where it has to lead to whatever it is that we are dealing with now. Then again, you have politicians twisting it. Oh, why are you arresting the guy in the manner you are arresting him? In the middle of the night. At the time you went there, had something happened, as Eric, my brother, tried to say. Had something happened, meaning if there was, crossfire, supposedly, what would have happened? Who would you have blamed? But you see, Kofi Juma wouldn't have told you that they called him several times. He wouldn't have said that they even invited him. Sorry, he even gave out one of his cars. At the point in time, even one of his sons spoke to the state security agencies. Do you understand? So, why do we have to go to this, thing all the time? And let me tell you, if you go through Kofi Juma's background, Kofi Juma has been around for years. Oh, yeah. He's a contemporary of Nana Konadu Ajiman the late P.V. Obeng. They were together in KNUST. Two party NUCs, Ghana Union students and all those things. So he's an established institution. Kumase Mayor, former deputy minister for local government under President Kufuor, gotten so many other appointments under President Akufo-Addo. An in-law of President Akufo-Addo, because his son is married to the president's, the then president's daughter. So you need to live by a certain reputation. you don't get to this particular thing. Vehicles gone, properties were sold, belonging to GIHOC. That, I mean, they said, listen, they are looking into this particular matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, come and give an account of your stewardship.
Yeah.
If you love Ghana, if you are patriotic, we don't get to this level.
Could the state security agencies, after they pick them up in this way, come out and explain to us that indeed we had invited them on several occasions and they refused or rejected the invitation, for which reason we had no other option than to go ahead? Then it puts this matter to rest.
Have you made contact with the state security agencies?
But they should be able to communicate to us.
They should be able to, but I'm saying that, have you made contact with them?
No.
Exactly. Okay, exactly. So maybe if you had made contact with them, your questioning will be different.
Yes, but, well, I get where you're coming from, but that's what I'm saying.
I also get where you're coming from, where, you see, the state, sometimes, when you leave a vacuum,
exactly.
Everybody,
there's room for ambiguity,
everybody
and we throw in
enter.
whatever.
Yes, there's nothing like empty. This container that is empty, there's something in there, which is air.
Yeah.
So once they leave the vacuum, the politicians, they were exploited. And indeed, I mean, I have no issue with them, doing so. However, listen, why would Kofi Juma, at your level, how many years more? You are over 80. I'm saying that he's over 80 years. You don't.
He's 70 plus.
Sorry, 70 plus, almost 80.
Mm.
You don't leave some of these things for for your children to come and be dealing with, your grandchildren to become and to come and be dealing with. You serve the state, diligently or otherwise. There are questions about your stewardship. Chief, come and respond to it. On the matter of the cars, some of the cars apparently they were bought. I mean, and within 2 years, they were sold to him. A letter went to STC for valuation.
98,000.
Okay.
And then they bought that car for 4,000. I think 4,900 cedis.
And that exposes an even deeper problem, even pointing figures at officials at STC, State Transport Company.
Well, but what communication went to them? What discussion went on at the board level? Do you understand?
So this is what happened. I think the valuation report, when the value died, the car was supposed to cost 98,000 Ghana.
Yeah.
But that same car was sold at a cost of 4,000.
Is that the Genesis or the Sequoia?
I think one of them.
Okay. So how many cars were at his disposal?
Initially we had 3, but his lawyers are saying 2 he legally owns.
Owned by who?
Kofi
By
Juma.
him. Because he had used the STC process to acquire it. Charlie, some of these things, yeah, anyway. But I mean, talking about the knowledge prosecutor, for me, I belong to the school of thought that says that shouldn't have been done. Allow the processes to go through.
Yeah.
But the feedback I got from, talking to some of the people were that some of the judges, but their demeanor at the court level was to prove a point. Because at the time we had an attorney general who was accused of judge shopping. Shopping for judges. Oh, listen, I prefer this judge. I want that judge. To a point where some of the judges, who retired and their cases handed over to new judges, those judges said that, listen, I want to, start this whole case afresh. Okay? As soon as he said that, the Chief Justice who is under,
suspended
CJ, transferred that judge to Kumasi. I'm talking about the Opuni case.
Yeah.
Do you get it? And brought in a judge that, I mean, for whatever they, for whatever purpose they wanted. I mean, if you had appointed me to take over a certain case, I want to appreciate the case from whatever it is. And his claim was that, the new judge was that, listen, some of these cases had been tainted politically. They are too controversial for me to just assume the case at this stage as it is. So do you know something? Let's start this whole process all over again. And an attorney general said, no, I don't want it like that. Went to Court of Appeal, had the, whatever it is, thrown, I think won the Court of Appeal. But then at the Supreme Court level, the whole thing was thrown off. But in between that, the judge had been transferred to Kumasi on a phone call. when I remember Herald did
But I'm sure this will be backed by official documents.
The Herald did a publication. The Chief Justice then issued a press statement or sent out a rejoinder saying that said that the transfer was purely an administrative procedure. An administrative procedure that had you or that had the Attorney General then going to the Court of Appeal and subsequently to the Supreme Court. Do you understand? It smells something else.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
So then the new government comes and says, you know something, you can't trust some of these judges by their conduct.
But Larry, if you go that route, then it
Oh,
means
no,
that we
allow me to-
have a broken
No,
system. Then so
No,
the same judges.
the system was broken. The
No,
system
but-
was broken before.
I'm not saying. You see,
Eric, let me ask you this.
No,
So you are on a case. I'm coming.
Larry,
you are
let
being
me- you see,
prosecuted.
but you
Eric,
see-
you are being prosecuted.
Yeah.
Eric, you are being prosecuted. And you have your rights, certain civil rights. It's like, listen, this whole thing, and then a judge asking Superu or I'm coming, let me finish. So Tufor says that, listen, I have taken over this case. Eric, for your own betterment, I want to start this whole thing afresh. Then, let's say, Samen sits somewhere and says that, oh, listen, Tufor crowd, listen, let's take you off the thing.
But see, Larry,
I mean, what does that suggest?
You didn't
It
take
means that Samen wants a certain effect.
But you didn't take your time.
True or false?
That's the picture.
You didn't take your time to listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're going by that analogy, then really we are lost as a country.
It is not my analogy, but it's a fact that
no, but you see, that's what I'm saying. That you see, if you're going by that analogy, where even there's a given whatever it is that you're saying is what has happened. Now, these same judges are still the judges that we are dealing with. It's the same judicial system. We haven't added new people into the system. It's all of a sudden, because there's a change in government, the orientation and their inclinations will change. So for me, I think that if we, in certain instances, we want to follow the Constitution to the letter, right? And go into that. Then in other cases, for some reason, we allow expediency and convenience to hold sway. And that is when issues like emotions and sentiments and justifications come into play. When really, in one breath, you have a system that comes. For example, I mean, you brought the Chief Justice conversation, so I'll say a little bit of it. For example, the NDC government is saying that they are following the Constitution to the letter, right? Because a petition has been, or a series of petitions have been sent to the presidency, and they are following to the letter.
Right.
Yet, they didn't follow. They didn't allow the process, like for this thing to go through, because they use discretion and all of that to do that. And I'm saying that when you do that, and somebody's sitting back and takes a cursory look at all of this, even plus the stuff that Larry has said, then it points to a system that is actually totally broken.
But that's what it is.
Why do you think the MPP lost an election? This, embarrassingly.
No. You see, but we are not going. We are not.
Let's
here to
go
discuss.
there.
But
we are not here to discuss.
Eric, is that the current state of the
No,
system?
but that is why I'm saying that. You see, that's what I'm saying.
And it's you politicians who have to be blamed
I
for
don't have
it.
a problem with blaming politicians. All I'm saying is that, as we speak today, if we are minded by fixing the issues, the challenges, it is not an MPP problem or an NDC problem. It's a Ghanaian problem, right? And say that, okay,
That should be addressed by Ghanaians.
exactly.
And then why those fixing it, they are not Ghanaians?
Oh no, but you're not getting my point. I think that so today, why me and you,
No, I'm sorry. Sometimes
you're a bit frustrated. Why? Because if you're telling me of Kofi Juma, my dad.
No, it doesn't have to be your dad.
Right. So all that I'm saying is that we need to be careful with these things, right? Because it doesn't matter how long these things take. There's always a cyclical thing. So this person does this to this person over a period, and it's not a problem. And then you can even use a judicial process. I mean, you can manipulate a judicial process to suit a certain agenda. However, in the final analysis, some of these conversations will come to the fore. There are conversations people are having which happened 42 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? And people are still
lessons learned.
Exactly.
Can I finish up? See, let me tell you. This is not the first time that we are having a nolle prosequi filed. Okay?
Yeah.
This is not the first time. after President Mills, election, there were people who were, prosecuted. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The Kufuor element, government jailed, a few other people. The likes of Chachuchi Kata,
Dana
Bodaki, many of them, some of the Ibrahim Adams, Kwame Pepras, Sepa Yankee, and many, some of them I have forgotten. Now, but then after President Mills, MPP people were some of them were put on trial. I recall Anani, Richard Anani, so many others. Oh, okay. Who? As a man, your in-law.
Yeah. So, this disclosure.
The wife, Zuleika, is.
Zuleika. Zuleika was my mate at GIHOC.
Oh, very.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice person. Then after Mills, I mean, the Mahama, inherited some of those. Now, when President Akufo-Addo took over. Some of the people who were on trial asked whether the trial continued.
I think you're making my point.
Oh, I'm coming.
No, Eric, please allow him to land.
Ask whether the trial continued.
In
that instance, I'm sure they filed a nolle prosequi, but it wasn't. Nothing was heard about it. Unlike this time around, where a statement was issued, a press conference was held, and then Ayeni telling us, why he had to file the nolle prosequi. In the case of Akufo-Addo, nolle prosequis were done, but nobody heard about it. You get
there was
it?
No communication.
So the scene of the Mahama government is that Ayeni held a press conference.
It's being transparent with the issues.
Well, if you call it that transparency, that's okay. Now, so this is not the first time that we have had to go. We have had to go through a thing like this. I wrote a few other things. Yeah, I forgot to.
Very well. Let me bring down the temperature in the room a bit by taking a few messages. This one says, "Good morning, Eric. There's nothing wrong with arresting or inviting a 70-year-old man for questioning. Any politician who thinks he or she is too old and above the law should not accept political appointment." Okay. This one says, "Holding former government officials accountable for their stewardship is justified, but isn't it questionable and a selective justice when the NDC government sees nothing wrong with leaving Sedina Tamaklo off the hook?" Pascal Dunyo from Afife is sending that. This one says, "It's time for Ghanaians to look at the severity of the damage that corruption is causing to the country. Officials are stealing millions of dollars, which can do so much for Ghana, and you want to glorify him? Some countries kill corrupt people because they understand how destructive corruption is. It puts the country years back. That's why 68 years after independence, we still have our roads untarred and our children sitting under trees as classrooms. We have to be very hard on corruption or we will never, ever progress." Okay, that's what you think. Let's relate this issue. Of course, they are linked because they're still within the fight against corruption to the bill conditions set for the former Buffer Stock CEO and his wife, 60 and 30 million cedis respectively. Eric, I'll start off with you. We saw what transpired during the Wontumi issue. Now, same IOCO, similar bill conditions against former appointees of the previous administration.
Well, I mean, because it's happened before. I mean, I think with the Dubois issue as well. I think it was just yesterday that I read somewhere that a Ghanaian citizen has taken an issue to the Supreme Court regarding this even bill conditions and the 48-hour rule and testing the Constitution. And for me, I like these things because then it actually sort of strengthens our democracy and enriches it. So the point is that, yes, you have a constitution. Again, and that is my challenge. And maybe I'm belaboring this point too much. So you have a constitution that has in there as enshrined the rights of the Ghanaian citizen. That states that if the state feels that an individual has done anything wrong and wants to persecute that person, within 48 hours, you have to take the person to court. And so if you arrest a person in 48 hours, you don't, whatever, you have to give them bail to go. Then the same state has bail conditions that sometimes are very difficult for the person to meet. Right? So this individual is going to court and say that, okay, if in that situation, within that 48 hours, when that individual is arrested, by all means, the state has to go to court for that court to now subject or institute those bail conditions. So that it is not, let's assume that I was a head of a security agency and Larry or somebody comes to me and then I said, okay, when I look at Larry, I'll set a 500 million CD bail condition. So that, you see, the system is sanitized. You see,
I know you will do that.
I will. Right? You know, but you understand my point. So for me, you see, when we have these conversations, for me, I don't take even getting an opportunity to come and sit on these platforms for granted. When we get these opportunities, it's almost as if that we are trying to contribute again to our democracy and how we govern ourselves. And for me, it's important to look at it because, again, when it's happening to other people or like people who are politically exposed, it's okay, it's populist and everything. But it's happening to ordinary persons.
Yeah.
You understand? There's a guy who's been accused of stealing a mobile phone somewhere and is in the cell for 3, 4, 5 weeks or something like that. It turns out that it's not even the one that did it, and he's been accused wrongly and all of that. And if you go to law school, for example, they will say that it's better for 9 people to get away, right, with something than one innocent person to be subjected to this. And that is the reason why we put these rules and regulations and these laws in place. You know, so it's difficult to have these conversations even as a politician because oh, there we go again. A political person has been arrested and we don't want them to be accountable and all of that. But we're trying to sanitize the system. We're trying to build a democracy, right? As imperfect as it is it the case that we can deal with it? Because if it happens that there's somebody who is closer to you, a relative or whatever, then all of a sudden you start shouting that these persons' rights are being trampled upon. And so, I mean, the justification for setting these high bail conditions and all of that, I don't understand, I don't know. Is it a case that is being used as a form of persecution? Because people have held those opinions in the past, right? But for me, let's allow the process, so that there's sanity. You know that if you arrest somebody, I mean, and that's the point about even these arrests. You are not ready. Some prior investigations have to be done before you even invite the suspect, or you go and do your Rambo style. Then you say, no, I'm going to go there, arrest the guy, and start doing my investigations. You are unable to meet the 48-hour rule, which is there, which is part of our rules and regulations, the legal process and all of that, right? So for me, it's difficult to have these conversations, but the reality is that it's almost as if that we apply these rules as and when we want, and then in other cases we don't even want to apply it at all. And people who are, it's the same way we are holding politicians to feet to fire, right? We have to do same in almost every facet of our national discourse. Otherwise, it's almost as if that everybody can, if you're a national security operative or you're a police officer or you're this and that and you're a security personnel, you can flout all the rules. Yet other persons are being penalized for flouting similar rules or other rules. It cannot be a fair system. That's my view.
Honorable Suparu, I mean, we've learned from the Womb to Me issue that you can actually go to court to seek variation of the bail conditions. Is this an option?
Yes, it has always been part of the options. When you are detained and you are granted bail, that you think that the bail condition is too much for you to come, you can go to court for the bail condition to be varied. And I'm happy somebody has gone to Supreme Court to challenge the status quo. I mean, when it comes to the arrest and detention for the 48 hours, and then the bail conditions. And yes, like my brother said, but investigations, it depends on it depends on the particular state security institution that is handling. Police has their own way of granting bail. YOCO, national security, and what have you. And that includes self-recognition depending on the kind of offense. That also includes you getting persons to come and sign, just physically present, and say that when the person is, is nowhere to be found, they should be held reliable.
Right.
No, whereas something with surety, like for justification in terms of asset and all of it, depending on the quantum of the alleged, amount being investigated. In the case of Hanan, I don't know the amount of money that is being accused of, but we only had the bail condition of 60 million, and his spouse also 30 million. I think that his lawyers should, if they think they cannot come, it's difficult for them to come by the bail condition. We live in a country that is governed by the constitution and the laws of this country, which requires that you can go to any high court to seek for bail variation. I believe when they go to court, probably the court can consider their plea by varying the bail condition, especially that the two couples are in detention. And, I'm told that they have 3 children, 1, 9, 5, and 3 years. And so if you don't have somebody at home that the children are used to, that also becomes a serious issue on the children. And so I would use this opportunity to urge the lawyers, we should not do politics with this, as we've seen in the case of Witumi case, that I saw my colleagues who went to sit on the floor instead of going to court to seek for bail. They decided to go and sit on the floor and be chanted.
We've not seen that happen in this case.
We've not seen it. Yes. So I think the right thing must be done. They should use the processes, which is the court, to seek for the variation, so that they can grant them bail, and the YOCO can also continue with the investigation. I'm told that he's been granted bail since last week. It is the condition of the bail that they are struggling to meet. That has been the issue. And of course, you can also, as Ghanaian, we can also dictate to YOCO to say that, what he's currently doing is against the law. He's acting within the laws of our country. That considering the case that he's been investigated upon, they look at the quantum of the case and say that maybe if they say that 10 million Ghana cedis or 20 million, he may run away, considering that. But if they say 60 million, whoever that is coming, the person must come with those assets, justified that, yes, indeed, when he's nowhere to be found, the person, those assets can be, taken by the state. And so they should use the court. We should not also do politics, like I said, that it is a political witch hunt. If it is a political witch hunt, we've seen the case of Kofi, Kofi Juma, who was arrested. The bail condition, I saw something like 500. I think it depends on the
500,000.
500,000. So it depends on the particular case and the amount of money involved.
Or sometimes the institution doing the investigation.
Exactly. So the institution, like I stated,
because to me was granted bail by CID.
CID, and then picked up by YOCO, and then the bail conditions
changed.
Of course. And so be a YOCO, which is economic, how do you call it? An organized crime office. You would expect that their conditions certainly would be different from that of the CID or any other institution.
Very well.
It is sad that it's happening this way, because Hanan is a very young man like myself, and as young as we are the future of this country. And so when opportunities are given to us, I'm my 40s. So if opportunity is given to us as young people to serve our country and build a nation for us, for ourselves and for our children tomorrow, what we expect is that to make ourselves proud. But when things turns out this way, it's a bit worrying that you see a young person who is supposed to be the future of the country is involved in this. His future, his credibility, allegedly, his integrity, everything is being questioned. And so that also gives our leaders some kind of thinking that it is like the youth are not ready for the work.
Thank you. Thank you. Larry, I'll come to you, but I need to take a break at this point. After the break, I'll come to Larry Dogbe on his initial thoughts on the bail conditions set for the former Buffer Stock Company CEO and his wife. This is Breakfast Daily on ChannelOne TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne TV. News review segment currently underway. It's now the turn of Larry Dogbe to give a submission regarding the bail conditions set for the former Buffer Stock CEO and his wife. Okay. For want of a better description, Yoko is gaining popularity for setting some of these conditions. There's the argument that it's deliberate to prolong detention. There's also the argument that it's to aid in investigations. Where do you stand? What are your thoughts on this?
I'll say this, and then I'll pick it from a point. But quite apart from that, let me go back to what Eric on
which one?
On the bit about
the nolle prosequi?
The nolle prosequi, and then the fact that a petition was put before, the use of discretionary power. Yeah, President Akufo-Addo, when he had a discretionary power, based on what the Constitution, the constitutional requirement, before him, a petition was put before him with respect to the same Chief Justice. He threw it away. True or false?
Did he? The Council of State did not establish a prima facie.
He threw it away. But then another Council of State felt, saw merit in whatever has happened here. And then President Mahama moved on to suspend the Chief Justice. So there are different personalities, man, state, and war. There are two different personalities here. The approaches to things are different. Do you understand? And that is what we voted for. Let's allow it to go. It was respected then. It should be respected now. Okay? And then we all see through it. Tomorrow, if somebody else is in the seat and is, being vindictive, we can read through that as well. Do you get it? Let's go through it. Now, in the case of Hanan, let me pick it from here. Raymond Archer, I had worked with Raymond Archer at the Enquira.
Yeah.
Before Raymond became, the
Yoko
boss. Raymond has practiced journalism in this town for God knows how long. He's won several awards, investigative journalism and so on. Before the emergence of Anas, Raymond was, was Raymond.
Yeah, quite celebrated.
Exactly. I mean, worked with Kofi Kumsin, Ghanaian Chronicle.
Yeah.
Had established himself. Moved on to establish, the Enquira. That I worked with. And my years with working with Raymond, I didn't see Raymond as a very vindictive and vicious or treacherous character. So the brush that people are painting him with, I mean, for me, it surprises me.
Can circumstances change you? Situations you go through?
Oh, yeah, it could change you. But if you know Raymond, he's a matured guy. You might see him as a young guy. But he's a very mature person. He's not, I've worked with Raymond. Right. I know what I'm talking about.
Quite refined. He's not the raw type
I know what I'm talking about. He knows how to handle himself. Neat. You get it? So, I mean, today he found himself in an arena where politicians are involved. So, any mad at all, is being true. Exactly. I mean, by people from whom accountability is being extracted. And, depending on the situation, then the kind of thing you throw. But Raymond is not like that. You need to get to know him better, and you appreciate him. He deals with, politicians, both sides.
On either side.
Exactly. And Chronicle, I mean, made its name when Rawlings was in office. Okay? And Raymond worked with Rawlings. We all know Kofi Kumsin.
Yeah.
Raymond's publications are there. Enquira, Kufuor's, presidency, what Enquira became, and and so on. We all know what it is. After he moved on to go and establish his printing press business, private business.
The one McDonald destroyed?
Well, that's another discussion altogether. So I know Raymond very well. Eric Chum also knows him quite well. And he knows that Raymond is not the kind of
There's a smile on your face when you mention Eric.
No, Eric is my brother. Eric will tell you. When this, discourse is over, we know what we talk about.
Well,
do you understand? Very nice
well,
guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The difference is, he's tall and the muscle.
Someone told me that my dad is your brother. That you are related to my dad. Is it?
I'm an Igbe boy through and through.
Doesn't matter.
My dad is half Gan, half Dangme. Yes. I mean, a few times we've spoken. So if on that level he's a brother, no problem. Eric is also, somebody said.
Yeah, you guys are related.
No, we are never related.
I was wondering how your brother destroys your former working colleagues.
Oh, no, we are not related.
He's trying to distract you.
Yeah, carry on.
On Hanan, I don't know whether during the last administration, the Herald had a lot of information about Hanan, and we made several efforts to speak to Hanan over it. Procurement breaches, so inflated prices, so many other acquisition of properties in Tamale and so many other places and so on. And we made several efforts to talk to Hanan. Hanan wouldn't avail himself. So what we did was to start publishing coming up
Okay.
with his picture there.
Okay.
So then
Sort of a teaser.
Yes. Then he panicked. Then started making calls all over the place, getting people to intercede on his behalf and all that. Eventually, a meeting was arranged between us and then another journalist, a journalist, who is a colleague. We met. Most of the things we put before him, he denied them flat. But earlier, I think the minority then, as in the NDC minority, had issued a statement about certain procurement issues as far as buffer stock was concerned. And they said they had picked it up from audited account of the company, where food prices were inflated, food quantities of food that were supplied to various schools didn't meet the kind of the quantity what was stated.
Yeah.
And then what was was inflated. More like you delivered 2 bags, but then they said they supplied 10 bags. Exactly.
They just had a zero.
Yeah. So I mean, buffer stock has had issues.
Yeah.
Hanan's administration, has issues. Okay. I don't know whether that is what Raymond or the GIHOC is chasing.
Perhaps they look at the magnitude or the quantum involved in the alleged malfeasance or misappropriation, and then they set the bill at that level.
Well, so, coming to the bill, maybe that is where we are now. But at the time where we were following this up, the name of the wife didn't come up anywhere. But the story that is gaining grounds is that the wife, he and then the wife had set up a private company that they were using to do business with
the buffer stock.
Yeah, with the buffer stock. That is quite strange.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, conflict of interest. Clearly, if that is established. Yeah. So maybe it is out of some of these things that the bill condition is where it is. You get it. But as Suparu, is it Suparu or Suparu? Suparu said, what's the meaning? You don't know. Okay. So as Suparu said, Honorable Suparu said, if you have issues, go to court to have the bill condition varied.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the wife also being involved and with 3 children, okay, who don't obviously know where their parents are. Sally, that is strange. Sorry, that is to me, sad. Because at least if your dad is gone, you expect your mom
to be home.
To be home. Now the 2 of them are locked up. You have to wake up in the morning, or somebody has to wake you up in the morning, dress you up, and take you to school and so on, pick you up from school. When you come, by the time you get home, food is ready for you to eat. Some of these things really could distort. And these children could live with, whatever condition, for whatever. Even at a stage, when your son could come to you and say that, oh, Daddy, would you go for another meeting?
Or clearly that is missing from home.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
so it means that Charlie, your absence is being felt and so on. And for the children to wake up and then know daddy, you know, mommy, and you don't know, they don't know where they are going. Between, even if you are arrested for a day or a weekend, by the time you come back, something could have happened to this case because the kind of attention that you give them, I mean, the caretaker will never
Will not
do
be
that.
able to do so.
I mean,
And these kids have access to social media
precisely, and it should just tell you that whatever we do, sometimes insulate your, you know, your
family.
wife, okay, from some of these things. If it's you, just do them. You know, go and cook whatever deal you have to cook. But the very moment you get your wife involved, there's trouble. We are dealing with a Dubuahi and then the wife.
Yeah.
Okay, daddy is gone. Mommy was also locked up. By the time they come back,
The damage is
yeah,
done.
who else's wife is also involved in this thing? But it appears the last administration, a lot of wives got involved. got involved.
It's a partnership.
A lot of wives got involved.
You speak
Is that eloquently?
Okay. Bio yo.
Aye Mokosane. No.
Bio yo. I mean, see, these things for me. Anyway, let's allow the due process to take
Let's
place.
give time some time.
And then
Let's give time some time.
and let's see how all these cases pan out. I mean, like we were saying even before, during the break. I mean, for me, I'd have been very excited to see that once all these things is happening, the prosecutions would have started.
Yeah.
You know, but because then it's a bit difficult for me to understand how there's so much verve and say that these things have been found and everything.
Yeah.
And then
the
now
prosecution is
it's the bail process that is stalling the process.
Eric,
You know, that's for me.
Yeah, so
when
I
you do
get you,
that,
but you see, this is about state versus somebody.
Yeah.
And building a case, I'm not a lawyer, but you need to even get the witnesses, everybody must be.
So why don't
Ready.
you build? Why don't you do?
How do
all
you
that
build a
before?
case when you haven't interrogated the
The
person?
person.
Yeah,
The interrogation is part of the thing.
The interrogation is part of building. So after interrogation,
but the-
They
how
even
do
invite you.
but
They
the
and you
invite
must
you
get
to write a
your-
statement.
Yes,
Yeah.
But the
so you
law-
must
the
get
law
the
gives you-
Caution
witnesses.
statement.
Yeah.
The law gives you 48 hours to prosecute, like basically take the person
To court.
And then the court now will dictate.
No,
the court dictates that process of either this person is a flight risk, this person needs to be remanded,
So-
and all of that.
so-
and I'm saying that so that
I don't know
for the avoidance
if Eric
of
is a
these.
No,
I'm not a lawyer.
It's not yet a lawyer.
Right.
So,
yeah.
so Eric,
Yeah.
so this is what the law says. The 48 hours, if you are not able to finish with your investigation,
Investigations.
for whatever reason you are detaining the person for,
You have to convince the court.
you must take the person to the court, and then the court can remind the person in custody.
based on
Once-
your argument to the court.
Yes,
Yes.
based on your argument to the court. In this case, they've granted all the people that have been arrested, they've given them bail even before the 48 hours. So what is now holding on to the bail? It is the condition of the bail. After the bail, they've always granted them bail even before the 48
But
hours.
that is
And that
what
is where
somebody
the
is
challenge is.
challenging.
The tune
Exactly.
to which the bill is set.
So bail is bail. So that is what they are saying that. So assuming the person is detained, you haven't given the person the bail, and it is 48 hours. You have no right to detain the person. The only right you can get is taking the person to court
court.
and argue your case. If court can say, okay, I'm going to put the person in custody, remind the person, go and carry on with your investigations.
investigations.
You understand? So what is currently happening is that after arresting the person, within 24 hours, they grant the person the bail.
Bail.
But the issue always has to do with the bail
Meeting
condition.
the conditions.
Meeting the condition. And in our case, the Constitution did not state the bail condition that in the case of ABCD, if you have an issue with somebody with an amount of this allegedly stolen by the person, this should be the range between
right.
this
Right.
and that.
Right.
It is not
Right.
stated.
Right.
So you see where
There's a lacuna in there.
Yes, that's why
But
the problem
that's why
is.
somebody's taking the things to the Supreme Court. Let's
Very
see
well.
what the Supreme says.
So,
Please wrap up
so
on
you see,
this.
various institutions have their modus operandi. So GIHOC would have its own, so, you know,
NIB will have its
exactly,
own, Ghana Police will have its
CID, you know, and all that will have all their this thing. And I think that, so I don't want to believe that what GIHOC is doing is anything out of the ordinary. I mean, have they granted?
I mean, if it's not permissible by law, it would have been challenged by now.
Precisely. You get it?
Yeah.
I mean, you might want to demand a humane or human approach, you know, into this particular thing. But words such as political vendetta, retribution, witch hunting, so and so, as you see in the minority statement signed by Patricia PJ, you know, the deputy minority leader. I mean, that what was wrong yesterday cannot be right today, and that this whole thing is somebody is on a mission to score.
But when it was wrong yesterday, it felt good.
Ah, well. so somebody is on a mission for witch hunting or settling political scores and so on. What was wrong yesterday? What was done yesterday? That you felt that what is happening today, it's witch hunting or political, you know, retribution, all that, punitive. And, I mean, these are very strong words.
Yeah.
You get it? I mean, we can only demand accountability from our leaders because they were paid salaries.
Yeah.
They will take home end of service benefit. They got allowances. They live in homes that the taxpayers paid. They drove fuel. At the end of the day, they even took homes, cars, other properties, and so on. They signed things on our behalf. So if after all that, things are discovered and they call you down, Nana Tufo, please come and speak to this particular matter. It couldn't be witch hunting. And as I said earlier, they would have called you to say that, please, Hanan, so and so and so. It is when you refuse to show up, then some of these things do happen.
Right.
But once we are demanding human face from those in
the
charge,
authorities,
the
suspect should also
be human. Exactly. Your hands
must be clean,
must not be dirty. Okay, so you said that you won't show up. Then the guy go draconia. Then you start screaming, witch hunting, punitive, political vendettas, personal scores.
Right.
For how long must we live with this?
Right. Let me come to Honorable Supari. 24-hour economy is here.
Yes.
In a minute or two, tell us about it.
It's a very great policy that we expect to be a game changer for the youth unemployment situation in our country. And as we campaign with it, we told the people of this country that we're going to bring a policy like 24-hour economy where we have 3 shift once job. It means that you have 1 job, 3 people, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. That is 24 hours. So that's the 24-hour economy. So a team was put together led by the former presidential candidate aspirant Gusitano. And I think they are done with their work. They submitted it to the president. I think on the 2nd, it will be launched. And you've seen that it's going to really boost our employment situation in this country. I have always been waiting for this 24-hour economy because one of the greatest challenges we have apart from infrastructure in this country is the youth unemployment. And so for you to have a country that has a future, you must see the youth being engaged in so many productive ways. And so one of the things that we can do to engage our youth economically, it is a policy like 24-hour economy where you can have organizations like National Identification Authority. You go to their offices and you will see people queuing just simply because they want to acquire national identification cards. Meanwhile, those persons who are queuing for the cards are supposed to be somewhere working at the same time. And so some persons find it difficult because at the time they will close from work, NIA is also closed. Same applies to national, how do you call it, the driver licenses and all kinds of other places, including passport the manufacturing inside. So we want a policy like this so that there can be a policy direction, the mechanism, how it's going to be implemented. And government has come out with, some of the incentives that will be given to especially the private sectors. If you have an organization that you are going to engage in sign on to the 24-hour economy, there's going to be a mechanism that they will be monitoring to see the number of you that you've been able to recruit, and that some of the things that you have to benefit, government will ensure that that is given to you so that your business can expand, so that you employ more youth, and with that, we'll be able to, have a very productive
Will
country.
this add to the government's expenditure? Because it did not find representation in the budget.
So I don't know if you listen to what he says. Government is only supposed to get some amount of, I think, 300 to 400 million US dollar to support, but majority of the money is going to come from the private sector. And so he says that we are starting it, and so by the time we get to next year, by this time we will be able to know the amount, how much that is going to cost us. But of course, many other sectors have already started for our economy. Some, if you got, I think, last I saw, how do you call it, DVLA, the CEO was talking about implementing it somewhere last month.
Of the passport office.
The passport office.
The president says Tamaports,
exactly, Tamaports and all of that. I've had the opportunity of working at the port. And I remember those days how importers used to pay a lot of demorages because you will be working on somebody's shipment. I've worked with DHL before, so you'll be working on the shipment. When it is 5 o'clock, they say
the office is closed.
The office is closed.
Very well.
And a day demurrage can make somebody run a lot of losses.
Thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars. And so if we have a system like 24-hour economy, it means that when 5 o'clock, others are closing, others are starting.
Team takes over.
So it will make it very,
very well.
competitive. So this is a great policy, and I know my brother Eric, and he's my friend. And
let's see if he supports it in 1 minute.
Of course, he will support it. One thing about him,
Why did you take my friend from?
Oh wow! You're a trophy guest.
We are best mates. We'll be somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So you see, my orientation when it comes to public policy is to take a back seat and look. So my first question would be, what are the key objectives of this particular 24-hour, and how do we measure the effectiveness of this policy? And so I would have expected some pre-evaluation, if you like, metrics, and then post maybe a year and a half, 2 years, we'll be able to come back here and do a post-evaluation of whatever public policy position has been taken. In certain aspects of the economy, in my work, in other aspects of the economy, from my experience, even in terms of maybe like a forecasting cycle and all of that, this is a country that even struggles to produce enough raw materials for its manufacturing industries and all that. I mean, I've had experience in FMCGs before, where you need even a 24-month forecasting cycle to know exactly where you're going to get your maize from, your whatever from, to be able to produce your Cerelac and all of that, right? And where you're getting your raw milk from to produce your milk. So when politicians sort of sometimes make some of these bold statements and without the, if you like, the hardcore technical acumen that comes with these things. Even though I also wear a political hat, I'm a bit
let's observe
restrained.
and see.
Let's observe and
Very
see.
well.
In certain aspects of the economy, it makes sense. In other aspects of the economy, even you are even hindered by the exigencies of a demand and supply. So if you are producing over a 24-hour period and you are limited, you have a limited demand for that particular service. And you cannot do that. You understand? So I will not punch holes in the policy right now, but I need to see the key indicators so that at least maybe 6 months down the line,
we can do a proper
analysis.
So, like 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, why 1 minute?
I beg you, our time is up.
So I think that I would want to side with Eric. That it's early days here. I mean, beyond what we were entertained with was the politics. I mean, the political, I would do it, you can't do it, I would do it, we are already doing it, which we saw during the election, the campaign period. But we've moved away from that to, the proper work on the ground. Now, I would have expected that before we got here, the secretariat and then the private sector had a meeting. Okay, everybody comes on board so that we tease out, the fine, the chaff from the, we take the grain from the chaff. I'm saying this because most often you have a situation where the politicians will just talk, but then there is no interconnectivity between them and the private sector. You get it? That has been the issue with ECOWAS, where we call it the Economic Community of West Africa States. But they are more political,
than economical.
Than economical, And then you have others in the other, what you call it, the other communities, like Comesa, like which other one? There's Arab. Sadat, all those other ones in Eastern Africa, and then even the Arab Africa.
Way more politics than economics.
And they're more economics than politics.
Than politics.
Strictly, and
directly opposite our ECOWAS.
Our ECOWAS, okay. And then also you go outside the continent to, let's say, Europe. You have the European Union, and the European Union is strictly business. It's strictly business. The only time you see them talking politics is where, Russia, Ukraine, or
Israel,
Iran. But European Union has always been business.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. This has been the News Review segment here on Breakfast Daily. Don't go away. The show continues after this.